A few years ago, David Bramwell's girlfriend left him for someone she described as younger but more mature. She also said he was self-centred and too wrapped up in his own projects. To get over the heartache, David set himself another project, to go off in search of Utopia. He spent a year visiting some of the world's most inspiring communities, and along the way encountered anarchists, singing plants, a dominatrix-run kingdom, the eighth wonder of the world, and a fully functioning time machine. He came back a changed man, and wrote a very funny book about it. But exactly where and what are these extraordinary places? In the summer of 1978, a small group of people calling themselves Damanhur, numbering no more than 28, began to dig in secret at night into the foothills of the Alps. Their intention? To build a temple the like of which the earth had not seen for thousands of years. Over the next 2 decades, over 2 million tons of earth, soil and stone were removed from the mountainside, in an act that would have made the building of the Tom, Dick and Harry tunnels in the film The Great Escape look like child's play. By the end of it, not one temple but 9 separate temples, all under the name the Temples of Humankind, equivalent in size to St. Paul's Cathedral. And it was never meant to be revealed to the outside world until one of the members of Damanhur threatened to blackmail them. After all, they hadn't got planning permission, and then the secret was leaked out. So who are the Damanhurians? Well, they now number 1,000 living in nucleos, which are their communal homes dotted around the foothills of the Italian Alps. This is salamander olive on the left, Hobbit Watercress on the right, demonstrating spectrum of clothing options available in Damanhur. Now, everybody in Damanhur is named after a plant and an animal. You gain your plant and animal name after you've done certain deeds for the community. You get to meet people like Sponge Strawberry or Swordfish Banana, Goat Carob Tree. People in Damanhur sound like Jamie Oliver recipes. And you can say which kind of name you'd like, but ultimately it's chosen by committee. Damanhur liked to tell the story about a chap who had a bit of an ego about him and wanted to be called Panther Deadly Nightshade, and to teach him a lesson, they called him Dung Beetle Pansy instead. Damanhur has many extraordinary claims. They claim to have taught plants how to drive and tapped into the musical ability of plants as well. This is a 7-inch single recorded by a rubber plant called Heli. It didn't do that well in the Italian charts back in 1982, but Heli has gone on to do tours of various venues and clubs of Europe and now has a cult following. I had a chance to jam with Heli the first time that I went to Damanhur and found that she favoured A-minor sevenths in the music that she generated. There was a plaintive quality to Heli's music. But undoubtedly, Damanhur's greatest achievement has to be the Temples of Humankind. This is the Guinness World Record certificate proving it is the world's largest underground temple, though I've no idea what the competition's like. This is a cross-section of it, showing all the different chambers. One of them is a labyrinth, which they're still building. It takes a while to complete a fully functioning labyrinth. And because it was built in secret, the whole thing is sort of hidden inside one of the nucleos, one of the communal homes, somewhere in one of the mountains. And if you knew which nucleo it was in, you would still have problems finding the entrance. It's not a glamorous entrance. This is a picture of it here. And you go in through that entrance door and there's a woman in there hanging up socks. There's a washing machine. You think you got the wrong door, but you have to be confident to go through that door, and you will start walking down a corridor and hieroglyphics appear on the corridor, and the corridor goes on and on and on. It's like the wardrobe in Narnia. And you get to the end, there's a lift shaft. You go in the lift, you go down, down, down into the bowels of the mountain, and then when you come out, this is what you see. 9 extraordinary temples. And because it was built in secret, even if someone had penetrated into the temples themselves, you'd go into the first room and think, well, this is it. But no, you'd need to know where the secret button was hidden, the remote control in the wall, so that the stone stairs would give way and take you into the next chamber. And then when you get into the next chamber, you'd need to know which stone slab to press on the wall. And if you know, because it's hidden in the hieroglyphics written on the wall, if you know which stone slab to press, you press it and the entire wall slides by, and then you're into the next secret temple. It's pure Indiana Jones, this stuff. And then in the final temple, this, which they call a selfic cabin, or to those in the know, a fully functioning time machine, with instructions for use written in hieroglyphics around the walls inside there, and a giant magnet which throbs. Step between those glass bars naked and it will project you back in time.
Destroy it, George, before it destroys you!
So how does time travel work for the Damanhurians? Well, if you get hold of a copy of Kindred Spirit magazine from winter December to February 1995 to 6, you'll find an interview with Gorilla Eucalyptus in there, who was one of their time-travelling people, who tells you about the mechanics of time travel, how to build your own time machine, and also the adventures that he had travelling back in time to thousands of years BC, where he met some people and ate some blueberries. It's riveting. It's a riveting read. At this point, you may be asking yourself, what the hell's going on? Well, I'll tell you, or rather I'll tell you the story as Damanhur likes to tell it. So, the Earth has been destroyed. This has already happened. It's happened in the future, but the future's already happened. Don't worry about that. We'll get back to it. And this is observed by a group of aliens who meet every Friday night for a current affairs program in some corner of the galaxy. And one of them decides that he'd like to give Earth a sporting chance to decide its own fate. So he goes back in time to be pre-incarnated into the body of a man called Alberto Rowdy in Turin in the 1950s, who at a young age wakes up and realises who and what he is, what his task is in life. He has to save the Earth from imminent destruction. To do that, he needs to find the Earth's synchronic knot. This is where most of the Earth's charge can be found with enough energy to jolt the planet onto a new timeline. He travels the entire globe looking for it, and luckily enough, he discovers it to be just an hour outside of Turin. The land's for sale, and it's quite cheap, which is lucky. So they begin to dig at night, him and his group, Damanhur, to build this giant battery, which is the temples of humankind. Then they perform some rituals and spells which succeed. They jolt the Earth onto a new timeline. They save the people of planet Earth. The only problem is, if you build a timeline for a planet, sometimes it needs repairing, like a rail track. Where do you get the nuts and bolts from? Well, there is a place on the other side of the galaxy, but it's miles away, and it's quite expensive. But there's also one in Atlantis, but to get to Atlantis, you need to travel back in time. That's why they built the time machine. They don't make a big deal of it because they just use the time machine to do a bit of shopping. Now, I was first introduced to Damanhur by the late, great comedian, actor, director, Ken Campbell, who once described to me Damanhur as, "It's all bollocks, but magnificent bollocks." Thanks, Ken. But I think there's more to Damanhur than that. I've spent quite a bit of time at Damanhur now, and I find its people compassionate and down-to-earth and warm, intelligent. It's not just a crackpot religion. What I think they've done at Damanhur is something unique. Now, I'm a great fan of the writer Joseph Campbell, who dedicated his life to studying mythology. And sometime in the late 20th century, in an interview, he said, what we've done in the 20th century is we have pulled apart, we've deconstructed many of our myths in the West because they no longer serve us. He's talking about religious myths, I think, mainly. But what the world needs desperately right now are new myths to live by. And I can't think of many modern myths that have been created. Perhaps the most notable one is Star Wars. Star Wars is the myth of man versus machine, or man versus the Nazis, however you want to see it. And this has had incredible resonance over the decades through spin-off films and books and toys and all the rest of it. But it's only a film. In Damanhur, what they've done is they've written a theatre script, they've chosen the characters for themselves, they've built the most amazing set on the planet, and they live inside their story. It's a living myth, and every day it gets deeper and richer and more meaningful for them. And if the story of Damanhur can resonate for you, then Damanhur really could be some kind of utopia. So what did I learn from Damanhur? Well, I learned that the Damanhurians have built the 8th wonder of the world, and no one seemed to notice. I learned that the Damanhurians have done something unique on the planet as well. They've created a living myth. And also, I learned that trees really don't like being hugged. I found this out because I spent some time living in a village of tree houses, which the Damanhurians knocked up one afternoon. And it seems that our arboreal friends have a real issue. Oh, sorry. Hello? Oh, hello, Helly. Another crisis. The planet's in crisis. You need me at Damanhur? Well, I'll be there right away. Oh, you need me last Tuesday? Well, I better use the time machine.